A new poll shows that health care is the top issue for voters going into the midterm elections. It ranks higher than the economy, jobs, guns, taxes, and immigration. But there's still a push to repeal the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. 20 states are suing to strike down the law, and they just got a big assist from the Trump administration. The Department of Justice says it will not defend the ACA in court. The states argue that since Congress eliminated the penalty for not purchasing insurance, the rest of the ACA is now unconstitutional. The DOJ agreed and said if the mandate is out, well, so should protections for people with pre-existing conditions. If this lawsuit is successful, more than 30 million people could lose their health care. Republican Congressman Tom Reed represents the 23rd District of upstate New York. It's nice to have you with us, sir.
Thank you, Soledad.
So you have been a very big Trump supporter, and early on in first, somebody described it to me as ride or die for President Trump. And you've also been very aggressive in efforts to get rid of the ACA with other legislation, but you're opposed to this lawsuit. Why is that?
Yeah. Well, no, I think what the lawsuit represents, if they're attacking the pre-existing condition, is something I don't support. And I understand the constitutional argument. And what we're dealing with is a case coming through the Texas court up through the process. And it reaffirms to me that we need to deal with this issue. Healthcare is not going away. We need to legislatively come up with solutions to the problems of healthcare. And that's where the work we're doing in the Problem Solvers Caucus, for example, where I co-chair on the Republican side, 24 members, 24 Democratic members and Republican members who come together and put together proposals to solve problems. And we did this on the individual marketplace in healthcare. That's the type of effort I'm more supportive of. Let's go through the process of legislating and engage the American people in an honest debate. As I travel the country, I hear the exact same concerns echoed by our folks of Western New York. Costs continue to go through the roof. Healthcare costs and then correspondingly health insurance costs go up. We need to come to solutions that are going to drive these costs down.
But if there's an effort to get rid of the protections for people with pre-existing conditions, I think it would be devastating politically, not counting people who are on Medicare. There are 300,000 people in your district who have pre-existing conditions. Obviously,
Amen.
that's an estimate. How have they been talking to you about how they feel about this? And how much are you concerned politically?
Well, I never really put politics first. I mean,
you would be the only elected official I've ever met in the 30 years that I've been in this business, sir.
I appreciate that. Well, thank you. So
You're at number one. Let me write that down.
But it's really about solving problems for people. I mean, I'm the father of a type 1 diabetic. Diagnosed at 4, is now 18, going off to college. You know, if you're going to wipe the protections of pre-existing conditions out of the book, you're going to impact people like my son. And I get that. That is why this is not the path to take in regards to removing the pre-existing condition.
What are your predictions in terms of the midterm elections if, in fact, the messaging is around, hey, if you have a pre-existing condition, and this lawsuit goes forward, there's a really good chance that you're not going to be able to get health care.
I don't agree with that conclusion.
You don't?
Because given the nature of the case and how it has to go through the court process, that is not an outcome that's going to impact the midterm election.
So it's just because it won't be resolved?
Correct.
It won't be adjudicated. You don't think the messaging around it will be problematic?
Politically, this town?
Yeah,
they're going to spin everything.
This town only exists for politics.
They're going to spin everything, Soledad, and it's going to be Democrats saying they have everything figured out and that they should be in control, and Republicans will continue to fight for our position in the power base. And to be honest with you, I'm sick and tired of that. And that's why I'm trying to be a voice of saying it's not about who has power. It's about the American people. It's about the American people who suffer why this town plays this game of power politics. And I'm sick and tired of that, too. That's why I co-chair the Problem Solvers Caucus. That's why I'm willing to embrace and engage in some very contentious, honest disagreements, because we need to do more of that.
Congressman Reed, it's so nice to have you. Thanks for talking with us.
It's great to be with you. Keep up the great work.
Thank you. Appreciate that.